Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2025 3M Open Initial Research Show. Apologies for the delayed start as I was watching the end of the Barracuda and making sure that my suggestion for the Barracuda and the first name that I clicked in the outright market, Ryan Gerard, ended up winning that tournament. Made it a little interesting there at the end, down 16, 17, 18, but he does prevail, and what caps off an absolutely amazing week here at Calls. I can't begin to describe how well I performed. The Open, I cashed 70% of my lineups that I played for the Open. Did fall back a little bit on Sunday as I had a lot of Harris English and Matt Fitzpatrick and Tyrrell Hatton, Scotty Scheffler. I mean, a lot of my lineups performed very, very well, but with Tyrrell Hatton coming back on a Sunday, did not place as high as I had been throughout the first 3 days. But again, just a fantastic week here, cashing 70% of those lineups at the Open Championship. A very, very profitable week. And then capping it off with the outright winner at the Barracuda. So it was a fantastic week here. That makes 3 really, really good weeks in a row here at Calls. So hopefully you've been along for the ride, and at some point it's going to fall off the rails. It just always happens, but hopefully you've been along for the ride. We'll keep it going for as long as we can as we turn our attention towards the playoffs. And there are 2 events left on the PGA Tour, at least in terms of the regular season. We are in Minnesota this week, so why don't we get into everything TPC Twin Cities and 3M Open. So all statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best golf analytic tool out there for your money. Go check out FantasyNational.com. You will not regret it. In the description of the video, there are links to all the social media. First off, my X and Instagram, where tomorrow I will post some research regarding previous champions of the 3M Open, some patterns they all share, players in the field this week who also share those patterns. If you want to see the weekly research that I do on the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. X is also where I place my weekly betting cards and top player usage in the DFS contests I play. That comes out every Wednesday after the DFS Tactics show. So if you follow me over at X, you would have seen the betting card with Matt Fitzpatrick and Tyrrell Hatton and Justin Rose that ultimately didn't come through at the Open, but certainly was live going into Sunday, debatably, because, I mean, Scotty felt pretty inevitable, but a very good tournament. You would have seen all of the Fitzpatrick and the Harris English and the Russell Henley that I was playing at the Open. And then for the Barracuda, you would have seen the Ryan Gerard, the Rico Hoey, who were the co-leaders going into Sunday for the Barracuda. You would have seen all of the Gerard and the Hoey, the Christopher Ventura that I was playing in all of my lineups. So again, really, really fantastic week. And you're able to see the players that I'm wagering and using most often in my lineups if you give me a follow over at X, so make sure you're doing that. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's handle's in the description. He writes a fantastic article called The Fringe. I can't recommend it enough. I will be up front. He is on vacation this week, so no article this week, but he generally writes a fantastic article every week. I really can't recommend it enough. And by subscribing to his article, you'll get his deluxe version, which usually comes out on Wednesday with projected ownerships, his top plays and values and all of that. And by following him over on social media, you're going to see our detailed write-ups or our explanations to the 2025 Picks Challenge, which I believe I've taken a decent lead back with the Ryan Gerard selection of winner at the Barracuda. But you really are missing out if you aren't subscribed to his articles. Make sure you're doing that and follow him over on social media. Lastly, we are live. Chat is open. I want to hear from you. I've seen a couple of you in there already. I'll get to you momentarily. I want to hear about all your success from the Open, from the Barracuda, any outrights, any DFS contests, all of that moving forward for the 3M. Anything you want to talk about in terms of that with regards to course or players in the field, anything to that effect, would be more than happy to get into that with you this evening. But it's been a fantastic week. I'm still a little bit on cloud 9, having watched Ryan Gerard win about 10 or 15 minutes ago. So let's get into the 3M. Let's do our initial research for the 2025 3M Open. And we are going to start, as we always do on a Sunday evening, over at the GCSA Tournament Fact Sheet. Good evening, Bobby. Thanks for jumping in chat. Very, very much appreciated. Hopefully things have been well with you. Stay hot. I am trying to. It has been hot enough. Did you all play today? Because we did, and we got beat. It was a hot day, and we played over at KCD. That field is rather warm, and I ended up pitching. So it was that was about the only thing that went wrong this weekend for me, is the fact that I pitched and did not pitch very well today in our league game yesterday, and we won. It's so hot. You're right. It is brutally hot. Sounds like you all have had a pretty good year so far in terms of record. Hey, good evening, Darnell. Bad week for me, huh? Well, I'm sorry that you didn't follow in the success that I had. As I was mentioning in the intro, I cashed 70% of my lineups at the Open, and I hit the winner at the Barracuda. So, I mean, it was a just stellar week for yours truly. I apologize, and I hate to hear that you didn't have that great of a week, Darnell. We're going to try to get you back on the right track. And for me, I'm going to try to stay hot. This is 3 weeks in a row with highly, highly profitable weeks. So we're gonna try and keep the momentum, as all things do. It's gonna come off the rails eventually, but we're gonna try and delay that as much as possible. Told me, yeah, good stuff. Yeah, appreciate it, really do. I mentioned, late on Wednesday night, right before the Open, was extremely high on Fitzpatrick. Played a lot of him. I played a lot of Harris English. I played a whole lot of Russell Henley. Terrell Hatton, which, honestly, he came back a little bit on Sunday. He came back a little bit shooting +1, but, lineups with Scotty, lineups with Rory. It was just a really, really good week. And a lot of my players that I used as one-offs, just throwing darts at the bottom part of the price board, ended up working out. So, cashed 70% of my lineups. I actually had a lineup that was in the top 15 all week, and then kind of fell back thanks to Terrell Hatton going +1. Thanks to Keegan Bradley not playing today. That particular lineup had Keegan Bradley, who didn't play particularly well on Sunday. But again, not complaining one bit. This is 3 straight weeks. And we're going to try to make it 4. And then 5. And then, we'll see about that. But we're going to try and keep rolling as much as possible as we turn our attention to the 3M. Able to double up with the Barracuda, which was okay. Good deal. Glad to at least hear that it wasn't a total disaster of a week for you. Normally, I am better on those alternate field events. This week, fortunately, it was the Open that carried it, and then the icing on top, the cherry, all of that was Ryan Gerard's outright win at the Barracuda. So I mean, it's just a fantastic week. I'm definitely claiming Adam Scott is everything shit. You are now naming anything shit being Adam Scott. Fair enough. That's for you. I definitely have a couple of synonyms here on the channel. Matthew Wolf will forever be Mr. Kick Me in the Nuts. There's a couple others, but that's the one that comes to my head. Comes to my mind first, because of how much it really hurt that week. He destroyed me. Complete meltdown. Yeah, absolutely. But good to see you in chat, Darnell. Very, very much appreciated. Also good to see you, Bobby. I know we were talking a little bit of baseball there. So hopefully things continue to go well for you on the baseball scene. What tourney did I win? I had the Barracuda outright. I didn't win the thumbnail is for the outright for Ryan Gerard. I was in the I mean, I played multiple contests, but it was the 20 entry short game, I think, that I was in top 15 all week at the Open because of that lineup with Scotty and Henley and Fitz. No, Scotty, Hatton, Fitz, English really carried it. Keegan was in there, who had played well up until Sunday, and then Christopher Raytan, 5,900 Christopher Raytan. You know, one of those guys that admittedly I was just throwing darts around various parts of the price board, and you know, he ended up playing really well. Shot, I think, -4, -5 on the tournament. It comes back to, I think, either just inside or just outside the top 100 today, because Keegan Bradley shoots +2, Terrell Hatton shoots +1. But, I mean, still, overall, I mean, that lineup more than 30x'd its money. I mean, it was just, I mean, that lineup alone basically made it a profitable week. It was just a great week. And that was just one of the 70% of the lineups that I cashed. I mean, it was a great week. I got a lot of things right. I didn't get everything right. I was very high on Adam Scott, admittedly, and he implodes. He turns to shit, as you eloquently put it, Darnell. So I didn't get everything right, but I got a lot right. And it feels really, really good. It felt really, really good. But we'll turn our attention now to the 3M. We are in Blaine, Minnesota, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, at TPC Twin Cities. This is a relatively new event on the PGA Tour. First played in 2019, the same year as the Rocket, then the Rocket Mortgage, now the Rocket Classic, its inception. So these two tournaments came onto the PGA Tour the same year, in that 2019. The architect for TPC Twin Cities, little known guy by the name of Arnold Palmer. May have heard of him, may not. It's okay if you haven't. Probably that's not true. It's not okay if you haven't heard of Arnold Palmer. But he is the designer, architect, originally of TPC Twin Cities. Was renovated by Steve Winslow in 2018 to get it ready for PGA Tour play. Not a whole lot in terms of notes here, just saying that the spring was hot and humid, and June brought an unusual amount of rain, but the course drains well. Looks like maybe some areas of the rough aren't prepared like they want it to be, but all in all, they've got it ready for the 3M the way they want to. TPC Twin Cities is I believe, a traditional par 71, and in fact, I'm going to have to cheat. 1 par 3, 2 par 3s, 3 par 3s, 4 par 3s. It is a traditional par 71, meaning 4 par 3s and 3 par 5s. But this is a fairly long course at 7,431 yards. We are on bent greens, pure bent greens this week. No bent and Poa annua or anything like that, just pure bent greens and bent grass throughout the majority of the course, fairways, tees, and all that. Rough is this bluegrass and fescue mix that we have seen recently. Think of the Travelers, think of the Rocket Mortgage. I believe that the Open actually had bluegrass and fescue technically as its rough type. So we've seen this rough a lot lately. You see it's 4 inches long. They keep it fairly long, as it is one of the main defenses of this course, as we'll get into. 3M generally pretty easy. The greens here at TPC Twin Cities, pretty large, slightly larger than the average on the PGA Tour, 6,500 square feet, whereas 6,000 is roughly the figure that I use for average green size on the PGA Tour. We've got quite a bit of fairway, average fairway width 35.5 yards. That is very wide. It's very, very forgiving. Course is pretty darn flat. Highest and lowest elevation is separated by 20 feet. So very, very flat. But because we are in the land of 1,000 lakes, or is it 10,000 lakes? One of the two. I don't know. I'm not in Minnesota. 15 holes with water in play. There are a lot of water hazards around TPC Twin Cities. Several bunkers also, but Notably, lots of water in play since we are in Minnesota. So there's a look at TPC Twin Cities. We'll come down here. This week's course is the fourth longest par 71 so far. Falls just outside the top 10 in terms of total raw yardage. In terms of length, definitely not short. Green size, these are slightly larger than average, so we're not dealing with anything like Scottsdale or Sony or Oakmont's 8,500 square feet or anything like that. We're also not dealing with Pebble Beach or Harbor Town. And these are decently sized greens, not bunkers. Not the least, not the most. Pretty, I don't want to say nondescript course because there is all of this water in play. 15 holes with water in play, but nothing in terms of length or bunkers or anything like that. We'll see that it's generally just pretty easy. So just to recap very, very quickly in terms of TBC Twin Cities, Arnold Palmer design, renovated by Steve Winslow to get it ready for PGA Tour play. We have a traditional long par 71, 7,431 yards, pretty darn flat course. Bent grass greens, bent grass throughout the course with the exception of the rough. Greens are slightly larger than average in terms of size. Few bunkers around here, but main thing is 15 holes with water in play. So there's a look at the GCSAA tournament fact sheet. We'll now move to Fantasy National. And let me get my notes here because there have been a few field changes already from players who originally committed to play Friday night and to Sunday evening. So there have been 4 players that have decided not to play, and I actually need to star these players for you. So my apologies. Let me get to them. They are Brian Campbell has decided not to play. Thomas Dietrich has decided not to play. Ryan Gerard, the winner at the Barracuda, before the round today at the Barracuda, had already withdrawn. So this was a decision he had made, I think, either Saturday night or early Sunday. And then early on, Tim Whiting had withdrawn. So those 4 players, and then these players down here are alternates at the moment. So Cootie, Dylan Wu, and Joseph Bramlett have taken Campbell, Dietrich, and Gerard's spot. So those 3 are now in the field. And the rest of these players that are starred are alternates. Taylor Montgomery, Trace Crow, and Martin, etc. These players are alternates. You see that they've added Chesson Hadley, Scott Piercy, Robbie Shelton. Actually, I think Piercy and Shelton are alternates because Chesson Hadley, Carson Heron, Ches Reavy, and Preston Stout received sponsors' invitations. So anyway, there's a quick look at the field. Otherwise, a pretty weak field, which is to be expected after the Open Championship, the Scottish. They've had the biggest names of the PGA Tour have had a lot of travel lately, so the 3M does generally struggle to attract big names to its tournament. We have a few, and a few that played in the Open Championship. Chris Goddard, who's been on an absolute heater the past couple of weeks over at the Scottish and at the Open Championship, as of right now, is still in the field for the 3M. Matt McNeely, who's had a very, very solid year, had a top 25 finish at the Open. Matt Wallace, Siwoo Kim, some other names here, Tom Hoagie, Thorbjorn Olesen. All of these players that I'm mentioning, Taylor Pendrith, they played at the Open with varying degrees of success. Your favorite player now, Darnell, Adam Scott, is listed as in the field so far this week. Jesper Svensson, somebody who surprisingly top 20, or maybe a lot of people don't realize top 20 the Open. So, some decent name, definitely not. It was a little tongue-in-cheek, obviously. Just getting a little bit of a rise out of you. But as you can see, not the strongest of fields. Typically around the 3M, and it's understandable. So, dude forgot to take his. Hey, you leave the beige monster alone. You want to talk about nondescript? His wardrobe completely nondescript. If we take a look at some of the top performers, let me vent. Let him cook. If we take a look at some of the top performers past 36 rounds on the PGA Tour specifically, you see Rikuya Hoshino is actually our top total performer. Withdrew from the Scottish, although he did make the cut. I believe he made the cut at the Open as well, although as you can tell, that is not in it's not in Fantasy National. Sam Burns, did not want to forget, although I did forget to mention him. Probably the biggest name in the field this week, Sam Burns. Number 2, Cam Champ, who's been very, very good lately, with the exception of his performance at the Barracuda. Chris Goddard, Kevin Roy, Kevin Yu, Matt McNeely, Griot, Siwoo, and Matt Wallace are our top 10 in terms of total performance most recently here in 2025. But as I was getting to, or as I was mentioning, just not a very, very strong field. Let's go to the course breakdown in Fantasy National. Take a look at TBC Twin Cities from a scorecard and graphical view. And again, not to say there aren't difficult challenges around TBC Twin Cities, because there are. The par 4 ninth, 502 yard par 4 ninth, plays to more than a quarter of a shot over par. I mean, a very, very difficult hole. 0.2 of a shot over par, 0.15 of a shot over par. Some very difficult holes, long, difficult par 4s around TBC Twin Cities. 501, 502 in terms of par 4, 468. But that is counteracted by how easy some of these holes are. For example, the easiest hole on the course, the par 5 12th, although its length at 593, plays to more than a half a shot under par, an eagle rate at 3%. Even the par 5 18th at 596, 0.2 of a shot under par, 3% eagle rate. It just has a decently high bogey rate because water on it. The other par 5 plays to more than a third of a shot under par. And some of these par 4s, these shorter par 4s are gettable as well. The opening hole, par 4 416, 1,500ths under, 1,400ths under. A par 3 here that's a 10th under par. Lots of scoring opportunities around TPC Twin Cities. In fact, the par basically falls in between the 7th and 8th most difficult hole. Just a lot of scoring opportunities around here. We've seen that the length in the course is in a lot of these par 5s, 596, 593, and 594. 3 pretty long par 5s, even if they are gettable. 2.5, 3, and 3% eagle rate. Some long par 4s as well. 501, 502, 468, 467. Then it dies off or shortens up pretty quickly after that. A couple of longer par 3s. That's where a lot of the length comes in. There are some bigger scores to be had with all of the water that's in play. But for the most part, with these professionals, I'll skip down. It's pretty darn easy. 21.5% birdies to 13% bogeys. The Eagles bar is somewhat seen. We do have a few doubles just because of all the water in play. So generally this does play pretty darn easy. In fact, if we take a look at some of these past winning scores, last year Johnny Vegas gets to 17 under, had some moderate wind. It played more average than easy, but 2 years ago, Lee Hodges, 24 under. He blitzed the field that week. 3 years ago, Tony Finau gets to 17. It was actually difficult that year because we had a lot of wind. 2021, 15 under with a lot of wind. The course in of itself is generally pretty easy, but if the wind picks up, it can suppress scoring somewhat. So as I was mentioning that it was easy and that the rough was the main defense, I guess I kind of lied to you a little bit. I didn't realize the wind played that much of a factor, and we just looked at previous scores. Hodges did get to 24 under. That is what I remember, and that's why I was saying it was easy. But we've had winners in the mid-teens more often than not because of a lot of moderate and windy conditions. Going down to strokes gained by shot type. With all of that water in play, guys have to keep their ball in play, so you would expect ball striking to be a big deal. Approach off the tee is heavily outweighing the around the green. Yes, if players are finishing inside the top 10, they're generally making some putts. Top fives, a lot more of the same. In fact, the approach kind of tries to distance itself from the putting. For your winners, a lot of approach play. Again, with all the water in play, guys have to really be able to control their golf ball. We saw that at the Open. Even though the Open didn't play like normal Open, what you would think of as Open championship-like conditions, you still had to keep pretty darn good control of your golf ball because the greens were firm, and you would find those different swales and humps and valleys on those greens, and it made it a lot more difficult. So lots of iron play around TPC Twin Cities with a little bit of an emphasis on off the tee. Around the green for your top 10s, 5s, and winners have not mattered. So at least early on, it's looking like another course where we're not going to factor in around the green. Looking at strokes gained by hole by par, no surprise here. Par 5s are really getting taken advantage of. Par 3s are lagging a little bit. Move your top 5s. The distribution is just enhanced. In that regard, par 5s are really dominating the strokes gained. The par 3s are really lagging behind. And then for your winners, they are more evenly split. They're still taking advantage of the par 5s, but they're playing probably the longer par 4s pretty well, and they do come up with the par 3s. So in the data dive tomorrow, it'll be interesting to take a look at where the strokes gained really, how they really come into play for like the top 30 players and where the strokes gained come par 3s, 4s, and 5s. Clearly the par 5s are going to carry the most weight, particularly the par 5s 550 to 600, since they're all in the 590s. So that's one way to lean early on in your research this week, is to look at par 5, 550 to 600 iron play for sure. Looking at hole composition, we've got one mid-length par 3, two pretty long par 3s at just over 200 yards, I believe 203, 204, and 202. So I split the difference. 202, 204, and then a very long par 3 at 228. We do have two short par 4s. I don't think they're drivable. 381, yields an eagle about 0.2%. Maybe for the biggest of big hitters, but I really don't remember this being drivable. And then the par 4 10th at 379 yields an eagle 0.1% of the time. I don't think they're drivable. I could be wrong with that, but I don't remember them being drivable. We have a few shorter par 4s, 400 to 450, and then we got quite a few long par 4s, 3 from 450 to 500, and then 2 over 500 yards. So I'm going to skip the par 5s for a second. So you can see, like, long approach shots are kind of the deal around TBC Twin Cities. if these par fives, all three being over 590 yards, if all three of them get attacked in two, that's going to yield a 200 plus approach. You're going to have some 200 plus approaches on these long par fours, probably some of these par fours as well. Long iron proximity seems to be the name of the game early on in our research this week as well. So some key takeaways, at least from the graphs and the statistics here. Clearly, we're going to want to focus on iron play, probably some par 5 scoring, and then long iron proficiency, long iron proximity. Historic cut line here at the 3M, with the exception of 2022 when it was very, very windy and very, very difficult, +2 that year, it has been under par. It got to -3 2 years ago when Lee Hodges won. That's what I remember it being pretty easy. Otherwise, it's kind of hovered in this -1 area. That is, to be fair, more average than easy. So that might be a slight misconception on my part. Maybe need to think more about average than easy. Clearly, we're dealing with a long course, and tomorrow we'll go into Wind Finder, the start of the show, see what the wind forecast is like, see how much it's going to factor in. We talked about the scoring distribution earlier, but again, 21% birdies, 13% bogeys, many more scores under par than over par would tend to lend itself to be easy, but there are quite a few doubles with all the water in play. Driving accuracy, higher than the average tour event. These fairways are pretty darn wide at 35 yards on average, so very, very wide. But the distance is also higher, so players are hitting driver here and they're finding fairways. It seems to be pretty darn easy off the tee, but you have to hit these fairways, because if not, you're finding water, and that's the danger of TPC Twin Cities. Greens, easy to hit here, partially because of their size. They are larger than the average tour green on the PGA Tour, but in general, it's also just fairly easy around TPC Twin Cities. So green and regulation percentage, much higher. Now scrambling is much lower. Now I don't think that has a lot to do with around the green. I think this is all the water problems. Like if players find the water, off the tee shot, they're technically scrambling from there because they've missed the green and regulation. So scrambling is much lower here than the average tour event. I would attribute this more to the water as opposed to the around the green struggles of TPC Twin Cities. 3 putts per round, slightly less than the average PGA Tour average. Talked about the distance, proximity, basically the same as the average tour event. There is a look at TPC Twin Cities from a scorecard and graphical view. We'll come back now to the field this week at TPC Twin Cities. We're definitely going to look at some off the tee. And I'm going to look at long courses. When driver is put in these players' hands, who are the best off the tee players when driver is in your hand? I am going to incorporate all of 2025, so this will go back to Kapalua for those. Yeah, actually, I lied. I'm going to go back to 2024. There wasn't enough rounds here. So on long courses, at least those deemed as over 7,400 yards on Fantasy National, your top off-the-tee players on long courses: Keith Mitchell, Kevin Yu, Nicholas Norgard, Alejandro Tosti, Taylor Pendrith, Jesper Svensson, Wyndham Clark, Mav McNeely, Michael Thorbjornsen, and Ben On. Yes, I have emphasized that fairways are going to be important, and off the tee generally favors distance. So we'll probably want to take a look at some fairways as well, just to make sure these guys hit a fair enough number of fairways, so long as they're not hitting it in different zip codes, like some of these players can do that I've mentioned in the past. But there's your top off-the-tee players on long courses. I'm going to reset the filters. Just take a look at the most recent few rounds. Your top iron players in the field this week for the 3M: Henrik Norlander, Akshay Bhatia, Lee Hodges, Joel Damon, Tom Hoagie, John Pack, Victor Peri, Sammy Valimaki, Jackson Suber, and Austin Eckroat are your top 10 in terms of strokes gained approach last 36 rounds in the field for the 3M. And then just to refresh my memory, we're going to take a look at some green speeds here. They played average last year. They were fast and even lightning majority of the time else. This year of average, most of the time I would let it go and say this is the outlier. But because it was last year, I'm more concerned about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at bent. Just going to look at bent putting for the moment. And I will have to expand the time frame to 2024. But on bent greens, your top putters in the field this week for the 3M: Sam Burns, Vince Whaley, Justin Lauer, Cameron Champ, Cristobal Del Solar, Mackenzie Hughes, Kevin Kisner, Brant Snedeker, Davis Riley, and Ben Silverman. A couple other things that we are probably going to want to look at. I'm going to skip, well, no. I mentioned how we did the off the tee that normally favors distance. Off the tee does that metric. So on long courses, in the past year and a half or so, let's see if any of these top distance players actually hit a decent amount of fairways. Kitayama, pretty good. Keith Mitchell hits a decent amount of fairways. That's probably why he was number one off the tee. Johnny Vegas, decent enough with the fairways. But as I was mentioning, a lot of these players really miss a lot of fairways, and that's trouble around TBC Twin Cities. Norgard, not a lot of fairways. Ben On, Bramlett, Champ, Goddard, Wyndham Clark. A lot of these guys don't hit a lot of fairways. Actually, the best combination here seems to be Isaiah Salinda. 23rd in distance, 10th in fairways. That's excellent. So somebody to really probably think about early on this week, at least for driving. Maybe his irons haven't been good. Maybe his putting isn't up to snuff. Yeah, there you go. His irons have not been very good lately. So in terms of driving, he's been excellent. Probably not much else. But driving is something to look at in that regard. Let's take a look at a couple of things here. Just based on those graphs in Fantasy National and this course breakdown, let's take a look at some long iron proximity. We'll sort on total procs, but we're mostly looking at these two links here, 175 and up. So somebody like Joel Damon, excellent. Excuse me, 3rd and 12th. Bhatia gets an honorable mention, 28th, 24th. Kitayama, honorable mention. Trace Crow's an alternate, but be aware that if he gets in the field, he's got some good he's got some good long iron proximities. Suber. Chris Kirk, 17th and 33rd. Talked about this last week with some players at the Open, how if they are late ads, Fantasy National can struggle. Like, they've loaded Ches Reavie into the field, but they haven't brought in his stats. So just, kind of be aware of that. My goodness, look at some of these down here. Like Matty Schmid, 5th and 3rd. Excellent. Elite even for this field. Hoshino, 23rd and 2nd. Toasty, 21st and 6th. Rosner, somebody I was really high on as a mad scientist play last week at the Open. He made the cut and then, was pretty pretty bad over the weekend, but at least made the cut. 11th and 4th, very good with his long irons. Will Gordon, much the same, 12th and 19th. Eric Van Rooyen. So there's a few names for you in terms of, these long iron proximities that seem like they're going to matter a lot around TBC Twin Cities. The only other thing we'll take a look at statistically tonight, because I want to save a lot of this for the data dive tomorrow, is par fives. So let's go to par fives. All three par fives here at TBC Twin Cities are over 590 yards, but they're all less than 600 yards. So your top performers on par fives, 550 to 600 this calendar year. In fact, let me bring in all rounds just to make sure. Your top par 5 performers from 550 to 600 yards this calendar year in the field this week: Davis Riley, Cam Davis, Siwoo, Taylor Pendrith, Darnell's favorite player, Max Grazerman, Danny Walker, Wyndham Clark, Jesper Svensson, and Cameron Champ. If you joined late or are just not understanding the joke there, Darnell is very, very happy about Adam Scott's performance at the Open, and that's why it's his favorite player. And if you know what Adam Scott did at the Open, you'll understand and get the joke. So those are your top 10 performers in par fives this calendar year from that length. Two favorite players are Sungjae and Adam Scott. Very, very good. That was good. Hey, Sungjae made the cut at the Open. I mean, he was like T63, but he made the cut at the Open. He played better than like Cantley and Morikawa and things and players like that. But that was a pretty good joke there, Darnell. I will concur. Not from the Open, from last year. Excellent. Yeah, Sungjae did make the cut this week at the Open. I know that's shocking to hear. He was like T63. I mean, he made the cut and then was never a factor. I forget what. Yeah, you're right. What tournament was that? I feel like it was earlier this year. What was it? I'd have to go back and check, and I'm just, it's not coming to me off the top of my head. But I feel like it was earlier this year. Maybe something in Florida? Maybe? Anyway, this is a decent little segue here. Let's take a look at tournament history. Your strokes gained total leaders at the 3M the past 5 years. Now, this is one of the few tournaments that wasn't affected by the 2020 ridiculousness. So we are going to be going back 5 years. Your strokes gained total leader is Tony Finau, who has played very, very well around TBC Twin Cities. Wins 3 years ago, has another top 5, top 10, top 15. He's just been very consistent and very good around TBC Twin Cities. Your defending champion is Johnny Vegas, who missed the cut 5 years ago, runner-up, and a win. So he has been excellent with the exception of the one missed cut a few years back. Some other notable names who have been very, very good here. Cam Davis. Everyone seems tantalized by his potential. Cam Davis has played very, very well here. Emiliano Grillo has played very well here. 2 top 5s, another top 10, top 25, and a missed cut. Cameron Champ is a former winner here at TBC Twin Cities. He's actually been very solid. Win, top 15, and the top 20. Very good. When you're talking about iron play, no surprise that Doug Gim is up here. 2 top 20s, another top 25. He's been pretty good. But notice that the strokes gained total for these 5 years falls off pretty significantly after, probably Vegas? Depending on what your definition of solid is, maybe Grillo. because of all the water in play at TPC Twin Cities, this place is very volatile. Very, very volatile. So keep that in mind. Keith Mitchell, number one off the tee on long courses, has played pretty well here. Even Aaron Baddeley, who's not known for his ball striking, he's more of a short game and putter, but he's at least 5 for 5 in the past 5 years. Lee Hodges, top 20, win, and a missed cut. Again, leading to the volatility. Gave you shit. You were talking bad about Hostler and Gim this week. Hey, I was at the Barracuda. I wanted no part of Bo Hostler, and Bo Hostler went nuclear on Sunday at the Barracuda. So, I mean, he played very well, and I got it wrong. And I will never shy away from admitting I was wrong on Bo Hostler. But I did hit Ryan Gerard's outright, so boom, I don't care. But you're right, Darnell. You're right. I did not get everything right in the tournaments this week, or else I might have had like a year altering week. Instead, it was just a very, very profitable week. I had Gerard with a very good. Very good. Did you have the outright on him? If so, that was a decent little payday. Otherwise, like, obviously he played very, very well, so he's going to get you a lot of points in DFS. Ventura, you and I were very, very high on. He was fairly mediocre. Who else was it with Gerard that played really well that I had? It was somebody else. So my Barracuda lineups weren't stellar. They were serviceable. It was the Gerard outright that carried it. But coming back to the 3M here, just very quickly, some other notable names that we might want to look at. Tom Hoagie. Anytime you're talking about iron play, Tom Hoagie generally is somebody that gets mentioned. He's, again, leading to the volatility. A top 5, a top 20, but also 2 missed cuts. So be aware of that. Matty Schmidt has been very good. Top 20 and a top 15. Coming on down here, Sam Burns has only played it a couple times. Max Homa's only played it once, but it was a top 5. That's also when he was actually playing very, very well. A few players here that have played it once and played very well. So there's a look at some of the players who have played consistently well at TPC Twin Cities. Players who have consistently not played well at TPC Twin Cities. Will Gordon, somebody who I was kind of sneakily high on at the Barracuda. I know he made the cut. I'm not sure what he did over the weekend, but he is miles. I'm talking miles. Far and away the worst strokes gained total here. So apparently there's just something about TPC Twin Cities he does not like. Harry Higgs, popular on social media, not so popular in terms of finishes at TPC Twin Cities. Been really bad. Ben Martin's an alternate. Van Rooyen, 1 for 4. Nate Lashley's 1 for 4. Joel Damon, 1 for 3. Patton Kazire, 3 for 5, but still negative. Kevin Yu, pretty disappointing at the Open. Peter Malnati has a top 15 and 4 missed cuts. So, again, spike one time, but I wouldn't count on it. Maybe some other names here that have actually played it more than once. Troy Merritt, 2 for 5. Joseph Bramlett, big hitter, big driver of the golf ball, but hadn't performed necessarily that well here. Nick Watney, a top 15. There's a look at some of the players who have not played TPC Twin Cities all that well. That's what I have for you in terms of an initial research show. Tomorrow, I'll definitely dig deeper into the statistics, figure out what metrics have played well in the past 5 years here, figure out the players in the field this week who have been best at those metrics coming in this week. I'll also post some research over on social media, trying to find some patterns that a lot of these former winners share. Players in the field will also share those patterns, so be on the lookout for that research tomorrow. Catch you this week. Good win. Thank you very much. It's 3 weeks in a row that I've been very, very fortunate. It's been very, very profitable. Again, capped off with the Barracuda outright on Ryan Gerard. So we're going to try to make it 4 weeks in a row. So thanks to you, Darnell, for jumping in the chat. Thanks to Bobby for jumping in the chat. Very much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, and subscribing. I always appreciate it. I love what I do. Taking a very in-depth look at golf statistics, giving you a statistician and data analyst view of what he sees, trying to help us all win a little bit of money in the process. I've had 3 very, very good weeks in a row. We're going to try to make it 4 before the rails fall off, because they always do eventually. But thanks again for all the support, for all the wagers you made this past week for the Open and the Barracuda, for all the DFS contests you played this past week for the Open and the Barracuda. And until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive show, may all your bets be profitable.